It's Thursday, April 6th, and this is now on HNN. Breaking news, the sentence for a former state representative who pleaded guilty to taking bribes.
Hawaii News Now investigates who killed Dana Ireland. Lynn Kawano gives us a preview of her special report.
The city is warning of a parking meter scam, what you need to be on the lookout for.
These stories, plus Casey Lund takes us to the fish auction where it's swordfish season. Details coming up on This Is Now.
Aloha and good afternoon. It is sentencing day for a former state lawmaker who pleaded guilty to taking bribes.
Yeah, former state representative Ty Cullen was sentenced to 2 years in federal prison in connection with a public corruption scandal at the state capitol. The former House Finance Vice Chair was convicted of accepting $40,000 in bribes from local businessman Milton Choi to influence cesspool legislation. Now, Cullen must also pay a $25,000 fine. Former Senate Majority Leader Jay Kalani English was sentenced to 3 years behind bars for his role in the same scandal. We'll have much more on this story online and in later editions of Hawaii News Now.
And coming up right after today's edition of This Is Now, we're going to be airing a special report by our chief investigative reporter, Lynn Kawano. It's called Who Killed Dana Ireland? Now, it is a notorious case out of Hawaii Island, and so many people have been following this case for years now. And Lynn Kawano put together a 30-minute special report. Lynn, thank you so much for joining us. First question, what are people going to learn while watching your piece?
Thanks, Dylan. You know, it's 30 years, right? This investigation, this case has lasted 30 years, and we're condensing all of that into 30 minutes. But we're going to take you back. We're going to detail the crime itself back in 1991 when Dana Ireland was raped and murdered. Some things that you didn't know about the case. But also, what's really interesting for people, I think, is they're going to learn about the evidence. Some of the evidence that they already knew about, but how that's now changed with DNA technology, with better investigative tools, and how that led to the conviction of Albert Ian Schweitzer, and then how that led to the overturning of that conviction. And you know, there are some key pieces of evidence here that we really want to talk to. Back in 1991, DNA was in its infancy when it's used for criminal cases. So it wasn't a secret that the DNA didn't match these three men. We're talking about Albert Ian Schweitzer, his brother Sean Schweitzer, and Frank Pauline. The DNA didn't match, but still, prosecutors leaned on other pieces of evidence. So we're going to explain that evidence, explain the problems with that evidence, and we're also going to detail what made these three men suspects in the first place. How is it that police and prosecutors were led to them? It is very eye-opening. Also eye-opening, issues with a lie detector test that was conducted in the year 2000, right after the trials. Some of the details surrounding the results of that lie detector test, again, pretty eye-opening for people.
Yeah, Lynn, and you were in the courtroom a few months ago when Albert Ian Schweitzer, his conviction was overturned. How is he doing all these months later?
It's been tough. I mean, nobody thought it was going to be easy, right? You spent 23 years in prison for a crime you didn't commit, but all of a sudden to be thrust back into the community, while it was a great thing, while he prayed for it, and he's so grateful for everything that's happened recently, he's also struggling. You know, he talks about that a little bit. When you're told what to do, when to do, you know, what to eat, everything for so many years, all of a sudden you have all this freedom. So we kind of detail how he's been living his life in the past few days. He gives us a lot of information about some of the difficulties. Just technology is difficult for him to understand. He's texting now, but you know that's not easy for someone who went from no cell phone all of a sudden to being able to use an iPhone and to take video and pictures and text to people. We also talked to his family members who detail the past 23 years without him, the stain that they've had to live through. You know, they were vilified in the community, and they talk about that a little bit as well. And we also update on what's going on with his brother Sean's case, because as of right now, he's still convicted of that crime. The efforts behind trying to get that overthrown as well.
So the big question here is, if they didn't kill Dana Ireland, who did?
Yeah, obviously that is the big question, and that's the name of the special report, Who Killed Dana Ireland? We're going to talk about some of the new technology, what's being done, what kind of testing is being done to try to get to that person who's known as unknown male number one. So the 30-minute special does dive into that as well, some of the efforts that's happening as we speak to find out who killed Dana Ireland.
Our chief investigative reporter, Lynn Kawano, we are looking forward to this piece airing. Of course, you can watch it tonight on KGMB at 6:30, but also it will be airing on our H&N digital platforms right after This Is Now. Lynn, thank you so much.
We're learning more about the landlord who was brutally beaten to death while trying to evict a tenant. 64-year-old Alvin Matsumoto was attacked last month at a property he managed on Sheridan Street. We spoke with friends who had lunch with him just hours before the incident.
He just said that they haven't been paying, so he wanted to, do the right way to evict them, a typical landlord to tenant. So he didn't want to make any trouble. We're just shocked because we were the last one he spent time with.
Was just the type of person that was always just willing to help out and give, and never had any remorse or anger towards anything. Just very positive.
The suspect, 23-year-old Kendall Gray, pleaded not guilty to murder and is being held without bail. The former Schofield soldier was discharged from the Army just weeks before the beating for undisclosed violations.
A sex abuse sting leads to the arrests of 4 men on Hawaii Island. From left to right, Micah Smith, Joseph Marshall, Vincent Antonio, and Ryan Knapp are all charged with electronic enticement of a child after talking online with undercover agents posing as underage teens. Smith is also charged with attempted promotion of child pornography and Knapp with endangering the welfare of a minor. Officers with Operation Keiki Shield took the men into custody in Kona over the weekend. All 4 have either posted bail or were granted supervised release.
Starting later this year, up to 15 sites across the state could become communities for the homeless. Investigative reporter Allison Blair has exclusive details about Governor Josh Green's plan.
Master planned communities made up of tiny homes and shared amenities. It's a concept Josh Green has been pushing years before he was ever governor. Now, under the new administration, Green says Calhale villages will play an integral role in helping solve Hawaii's homeless crisis.
I want to see these things go up. We have to cut the red tape and build housing.
To jumpstart that process, Green signed an emergency proclamation suspending certain laws in order to expedite construction. As for where the villages could be built, Green says he'd like to see 2 on Hawaii Island, 2 on Maui, and at least 1 on Kauai.
The majority on Oahu.
Majority on Oahu. I'd say about 3/4 are on Oahu, which is a reflection of the population. There will be a concentration downtown and Waianae.
It's still unclear exactly how much money the legislature will put towards the issue of homelessness.
They have $30 million as of now in for Ohana zones, and there'll be millions more for Calhale, as we've asked.
What's the difference between an Ohana zone and a Calhale?
Think of an Ohana zone as a safe area where people can get services. A Calhale is specifically a village.
An Ohana zone, would that potentially consist of tents?
They're larger areas where we don't expect anyone to be swept out of, where people could, yes, have a tiny house or have a tent or a safe place to park a car where they've been living out of.
He admits some aspects of an Ohana zone aren't ideal, but adds these spaces will play an important role in getting people out of parks and from in front of businesses.
We want people into homes, we want a roof over their heads, but we know reality is that some people aren't ready. So the less resource we have to use from the police to move people about, the better.
In the meantime, the state's chief housing officer has been touring potential Calhale sites, most recently on Maui. In addition to government land,
we've got a private landowner who has acres and acres and has got on-site infrastructure, and he's interested in developing a Calhale and funding it himself. He simply wants the state to help him figure out how to move ahead and do that.
Green says a Calhale typically costs about $2.5 million to build. That includes about 30 tiny homes, along with shared amenities like bathrooms, kitchens, and other community spaces. Allison Blair, Hawaii News Now.
City workers have been scrambling to remove parking meter stickers that direct payments to a fraudulent website. Rick Daysog has more on what you need to look out for to avoid giving your credit card number to a crook.
The difference between an official city Parksmarter sticker and a phony one is subtle. A scan of the QR code of a legitimate sticker takes you to a webpage, parksmarter.com, which gives you billing information and the location of the meter. The phony sticker directs you to a webpage called parksmarter.app, which asks you for payment and personal information.
So you really had to have an eagle eye to determine that they were different, and most people wouldn't have known that.
Former Honolulu Police Deputy Chief and white-collar investigator John McCarthy says once the thieves get that personal information, they can quickly run up the victim's credit card bills.
I've seen it where these cards turn up internationally and people go, hey, I don't even have a passport. How can that be happening? Or while they're at work, it's like, I'm not in Walmart in Texas or Arkansas.
Of about 1,700 meters, it's unclear how many have been compromised, but the city says its staffers were out today removing the fraudulent stickers. The Department of Transportation Services is also warning the public not to download the app for now.
Until we update it, my advice to them right now would be to don't use the app at this point.
The scam comes as the city has stopped collecting parking fees from about half of its 4,200 parking meters in the downtown and Waikiki area. Those meters take credit card payments, but because the city's vendor Verizon discontinued the 2G and 3G service used by the meters, it's not enforcing payment on these digital meters. These meters will be out of service for up to 9 months. As for the remaining 2,100 old-school meters that only take coins and those that require payments at a kiosk, the city says it's still enforcing payment for those meters. Rick Daysog, Hawaii News Now.
The city is proposing new limits on tour buses in order to reduce crowds at parks and beaches. Under Bill 19, parks would be off limits to unpermitted vehicles with 12 or more people. Those that are permitted would not be allowed at parks on weekdays and holidays except for Hanauma Bay and the Halona Blowhole. The bill would also eliminate the grace period for buses to linger. For example, the moment an unpermitted vehicle rolls into a park, they would be in violation and face fines.
My issue is making these across the board regulations, because every community is different. I feel that government is getting really big and overreaching. I do pause because I feel that this would be a big overreach. You're making across the board statements.
It's hard when I go into Hunananiho and it's just filled with limousines or the tour bus coming in or going to our small little park in Waimanalo called Kaiona's. I can't even go. It's so crowded.
A lot of our guests are elderly or people with limited mobility who would rather not get a rental car right now. When the tourists find out that they can't go there, with a tour company, with a tour guide, then they just get rental cars. And this is adding to the problem where they're going 2 by 2 in rental cars instead of 15 or 20, in buses.
The proposal also includes time limits and daily limits for buses. A $500 citation would apply for every hour of violation. Those with more than 2 citations in a month could face criminal charges and imprisonment. The next hearing for Bill 19 has not yet been set.
Republican lawmakers in Tennessee voted to expel 3 Democratic members from the House of Representatives, accusing them of disorderly conduct after they led chants from the House floor with gun control protesters just days after the deadly school shooting in Nashville. The move to oust Representatives Justin Pearson, Gloria Johnson, and Justin Jones is an extraordinary move the chamber has only used a handful of times since the Civil War. Outside, hundreds of students, teachers, and parents protested the expulsions.
All of Tennessee deserves representation, even the people you don't agree with.
6 people, including 3 children, were fatally shot at the Covenant School on March 27th.
Former Vice President Mike Pence has changed his mind and will not appeal a subpoena to testify about what happened in the days leading up to January 6th and, of course, on that infamous day. Nicole D'Antonio reports from Capitol Hill.
Former Vice President Mike Pence has decided he will testify about the events surrounding January 6th.
I obviously have nothing to hide.
On a legal scale, this is an earthquake and not a small earthquake.
Special counsel Jack Smith is investigating the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol and former President Donald Trump's attempts to overturn the election.
There may not be a more critical witness for the special counsel and potentially against former President Trump than the vice president himself.
Pence's decision to testify comes after a judge ruled several of Trump's former top aides must testify, including former Chief of Staff Mark Meadows.
I think the American people deserve the whole story.
Special counsel Smith's federal investigations extend well beyond the attack on the U.S. Capitol. He's also tasked with getting to the bottom of former President Trump's handling of classified material.
The boxes hoax, the boxes hoax.
Sources tell CBS News that many staffers at Mar-a-Lago and Trump aides have testified about whether Trump obstructed the government's efforts to secure the documents. Trump insists he did nothing wrong.
We were negotiating in very good faith, proper way, in order to return some or all of the documents that I openly and in very plain sight brought with me to Mar-a-Lago from our beautiful White House.
Trump was indicted in New York Tuesday on state charges of allegedly falsifying business records. Nicole D'Antonio, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Let's give you a live look outside. This is looking toward the Honolulu airport. I believe this is maybe one of the reef runway areas. You can see the camera shaking around. It has been quite windy. For more on your island weather, let's send it over to Ben Gutierrez with your forecast.
We've had a few spotty showers moving in on the brisk trade winds. Those showers are being kept on the move, so they're really not a flooding threat, but they are moving through the islands from time to time, mainly windward and Mauka areas, fueled by strong high pressure off to the northwest. This isn't going anywhere, but we could see the trade winds easing up a little bit as we head into the weekend, along with a first alert for a few more showers. The futurecast shows those showers increasing as we head into Saturday and Sunday, and it's not going to be anything particularly heavy, but just a higher chance of showers, mainly windward and Mauka areas. That's going to be accompanied by an easing up of the trade winds. Today, by the way, is the first day of Passover, which began at sunset last night, and that's going to continue for a few more days as we head into the Easter weekend. For Good Friday, morning clouds and breezy conditions, winds dying down a bit, but an increase in showers for Saturday and Sunday. And we're looking at a pretty good increase in the trade wind speeds as we head into Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday with highs in the mid-80s and overnight lows right around 70 degrees.
Springtime is swordfish season here in Hawaii, and local fishermen have been reeling them in. Casey Lund was at the fish auction to learn more.
Aloha from Nico's. They're actually the state's largest purchaser or buyer of swordfish in Hawaii. We didn't start here, though. We were over at the fish auction, and Michael Goto is with me from UFA, United Fishing Agency. We hear swordfish is kind of an underappreciated commodity here in Hawaii.
Yeah, absolutely, Casey. It really hasn't caught on the way that obviously ahi, marlin, opa, manchang, the way that those products have kind of grown in the Hawaii culture over the years. And we really want to start educating the general public, especially residents, on the value and high quality that swordfish can bring to their dinner table.
Yeah, and speaking of the dinner table, Nico Chase is with us. Nico, I was just talking with Mike about swordfish. You mentioned earlier when people come over from the East Coast, they're surprised to see it on the menu here.
Oh, yeah.
But you guys serve up swordfish, right? Tell me a little bit about what we got on the plate here.
So we have two different types of swordfish preparation right here. So this is one of the I like the most, which is grilled swordfish. And like I explained to you, there's a lot of fat content into the fish, so you need to burn that fat to get all the flavors. So the best way to do it is put on a grill. So the pesto marinated swordfish overnight over pesto pasta. It was a very simple dish, ready to go. The next one is fish and chips. We've been doing that for almost 20 years now with swordfish. It's super moist, it stays good. It's one of the best swordfish fish and chips you're gonna get. So when people, like you said, when people from mainland see, are you doing that with? Are you doing a fish and chip with swordfish? You're like, are you crazy? Because it's kind of fine dining restaurant in the mainland.
Kind of special over here. It should be special here. And that's what we're talking again, Mike, that when we talk about harvesting, collecting these fish, it's abundant. Not quite obviously in the numbers that we see ahi, but you could definitely save a little bit of money, especially if you're looking for a really good meal for the holiday, the Easter holiday.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, because it comes in such abundance, the volume that the boats bring it in, it's going to create a very affordable price point that will definitely be very, very applicable to a local consumer, especially for, like you said, a holiday season where fish generally tends to spike in value. Swordfish is still within that affordable range.
Save a little bit of money and also have a pretty delicious meal. Nico, I'm going to try this out. Swordfish, fish and chips. Delicious.
Thank you.
Thank you, my friend. That's going to do it here from Pier 38. Oh, what a day. We'll send things back to you for now.
Now to a downright bizarre theme for a wedding. There's been a lot of talk about that movie Cocaine Bear, and now a shop in Lexington, Kentucky is offering up a unique experience to tie the knot. Sydney Darden has the story.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to bear witness. The happy couple, Alexander Venturino and Armando Elizondo of Pike County. The officiant,
y'all look so good, I could eat your faces off.
the Cocaine Bear himself. The whole thing started when Griffin Van Meter, the owner of Kentucky for Kentucky Fun Mall, saw the movie Cocaine Bear in theaters and decided to make the main character, nicknamed Pablo Escobar, the store's new mascot.
We had put out there that Cocaine Bear was interested in marrying people, and they reached out to us. And
the rest, as they say, was booger sugar history. Escobar swapped out his white bricks for a black top hat, as Alexandra and Armando, both dressed in wedding-appropriate white stuff, exchanged vows.
And Cokie the Bear even came back to celebrate the nuptials.
I like it a lot. It's nice. The bear's pretty cool. It's the only bear like that.
As the first couple to tie the knot in front of Cocaine Bear, they say this will definitely be a story to tell the grandkids.
By all the cocaine I ate in blue, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Y'all may eat each other's faces.
You know,
The epitome of romance and elegance all at one.
Yeah, good for them. Congratulations to them. Time for some good news. Now, with Easter around the corner and egg prices still high, some people on social media are trying something different. Painting potatoes for the holiday. So even potato producers are getting in on the trend, using marketing efforts to push the idea. So if you want to give it a try, they say you can either use food coloring or regular paint. And potatoes are less fragile than eggs, so it's easier for kids to hold.
And then when you're done, make some mashed potatoes and call it a day. You know, I actually haven't even dyed eggs myself in years.
Yeah.
It's been a long time.
Same.
Not because of the prices, just because I didn't got time for that.
Yeah.
But egg potatoes, I'm here for that. Sticking with the Easter theme, we're going to end today's show on this super cute video. Take a look at that. These are animals at the London Zoo. They got some excellent treats today ahead of Easter Sunday. Zookeepers stepped into the role of Easter Bunny and left colored eggs for the animals. The 9-month-old critically endangered Sumatran tiger cub sniffed out a cinnamon-scented trail, and the meerkats received, get this, delicious eggs filled with moss and crickets. Meanwhile, the Bolivian black-caped squirrel monkeys got out eggs stuffed with steamed sweet potato, sweet corn, and peas. Hey, egg potatoes, just like that. Oh my gosh, so cute. We always love these cute animal videos. And that's going to do it for us here on This Is Now. We thank you so much for joining us here on this Aloha Thursday.
See ya.